Hey everybody, how you doing? And welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Tuesday, September the 17th, 2024. On the show tonight, special guest is 12-year career paradigm. I always get this mixed up. You guys saw me do this last night because I get mixed up with pandemic and paramedic. I don't know why those two words get mixed up in my head, but they do. 12-year career paramedic Chet Chisholm is going to join the show tonight. He's got quite a compelling story, and he's also been doing a lot of work getting information for us behind the scenes. So we're going to find out more about that in just a couple of minutes. The show is brought to you, as always, by Canada Nano Silver, CanadaNanoSilver.ca. I don't like to name a favorite product on this website. It's like saying one of your kids is your favorite out of all the kids that you've got, 12 of them, 13, 14 kids. You, Johnny, you're the favorite. But in this case, the immune gummies. That's my favorite product on the list at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Simplify your daily immune support with convenient and delicious NanoSilver immune gummies. Each serving contains powerful triple action NanoSilver, elderberry, vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D3. This will help supercharge your immune system. Safe and proven NanoSilver. It works alongside your body's immune system to help you stay healthy and strong for everything that life throws at you. No artificial flavors, sweeteners, or colors, gluten-free, non-GMO, gelatin-free, and all-natural flavors. Immune gummies, keep them away from the kids unless you're going to give them. Here's your vitamin for the day. But other than that, keep them away from the kids on a high shelf or something because they're going to go for them and eat them just like gummy bears. They're that good. Immune gummies from CanadaNanoSilver.com. That is CanadaNanoSilver.com. If you're looking for a retail location near you, you can find one. There's over 30 across the country. Go to the retail locations tab on the website. And if you'd like to become a retailer of these awesome products, get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.com or .ca. It will redirect you to CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. Who's here tonight? Lulu is watching from the Pink Flamingo capital of Canada. I'm thinking that's probably Transcona. Lulu. Pink Flamingo. Yeah, it's probably Transcona. I think that's what you're talking about. That's an old Winnipeg joke. Val is watching from the Hat tonight. Hello, Jason watching on Facebook. Derek is watching tonight. Lucette in St. Jean. Hello, Dorothy watching in Fern Ridge, Langley, British Columbia. Jonathan on YouTube in Newcomerstown, Ohio. Colleen is watching from Madoc on Terrible tonight. Tony is watching on X from Calgary. No matter what platform you're watching on, no matter where you are watching from, please push this show out there on your favorite social media platform. If you're watching on Rumble, you hit the share button beneath the screen. That will highlight the URL above the screen. From there, you can copy and paste to your favorite location. For all the others, well, most of the others anyway. On X, it is a share and a heart. On YouTube, smash the like button. If you're watching on Facebook, it's a like and a share. Let's get this show out to as many people as we possibly can, you guys. That's how we're going to win, by sharing information and getting people informed. Those two by-elections that happened in Canada last night, one in Montreal and one in Winnipeg, did not go so well for the Liberal Party of Canada. Here is Justin Trudeau talking to reporters about that very thing earlier.
What's your reaction to the results last night?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate everyone who stepped up in putting their name on a ballot at a time where we know politics is a challenging moment. I also want to highlight the thousands upon thousands of volunteers who stepped out, lots for our party, but lots for other parties as well, to show that people are still very much engaged. At the same time, we need people to be more engaged. We need people to understand what's at stake in this upcoming election. Obviously, it would have been nicer to be able to win and hold Verdun, but
wait a minute, hold on. Did he just call us stupid? Let's go back and listen to what he said.
Understand what's at stake in this upcoming.
We need people to understand what's it's
for our party, but lots for other parties as well, to show that people are still very much engaged. At the same time, we need people to be more engaged. We need people to understand what's at stake in this upcoming election. Obviously, it would have been nicer to be able to win and hold Verdun, but there's more work to do, and we're going to stay focused on doing it.
What do you think went wrong?
Oh, I think there's all sorts of reflections to take on that, but the big thing is to make sure that
The big thing is I'm not quitting. You see, I'm going to stay on until the bitter end, which is fine with me. You stay on, you keep bombing that party down to 10 seats in the next election, let's hope. The Liberal Party lost a stronghold that they've held for the past 40 years in Montreal last night. Now, they weren't supposed to be competitive in the Winnipeg by-election. That was a two-horse race between the Conservative Party and the NDP, which the NDP won because the NDP have held that seat, with one exception, since 1988. That's Bill Blakey's former seat, and then his son won it, Daniel Blakey, for a couple of terms. The one Conservative who held that seat in the 2011 election was Lawrence Todt, who came very close to winning it back in the next election and the next election after that. So let's go ahead and look at the results of that election. And as you can see right there, what I'm talking about, how long the NDP have held that seat. So people who are thinking the Conservatives should have won it, you guys, you know what? I mean, that wasn't an expectation. You see Lawrence Todt winning in 2011 there. He came close again here. And the Conservatives came very close last night. Remembering also it's a by-election, not as large a voter turnout. I think about 35 or 40% of the electorate turned out for the election last night. So the NDP, they got 13,600 votes compared to the Conservatives with 12,448, which is a marked difference from the previous election, where the NDP got 20.7 thousand votes compared to Conservatives 11.7. So I think in the next election, if the momentum continues to grow for the Conservative Party, they probably will take that riding back. I'm thinking there's going to be a whitewash, and the Liberals could be reduced. I've heard some pundits, not just me saying this, but I've heard some political pundits. I don't even know what qualifies you for a job like that. I'm a political pundit. You go to school for that? No, I just like politics. Oh, gotcha. Some of these political pundits on television saying, yeah, the Liberals could be reduced to, well, I mean, they're not going to go below party status, which would be fewer than 12 seats. I don't think that, we can hope, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to be reduced to about 50, maybe 60 seats in the next election compared to the 154 they currently have. Who knows what's going to happen with the NDP? They almost won in Montreal last night. It was a very close three-horse race in Montreal last night. The Bloc Québécois, by the way, wound up winning that election in Verdun in Montreal last night. And also these pundits are predicting not a fall election, but a spring election is probably the way it's going to go. So we'll see. Let's change subjects for just a little bit here. From left-wing corporate Global News Today, Health Canada has approved Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine targeting the latest variant. I don't know who this guy is here. I'm not sure if he's going, what? Why? Or if he's a doctor trying to make a point, or a nurse just about to administer the vaccine, or just a guy from a commercial. I don't know who that is, but Health Canada has approved this latest Moderna vaccine for COVID-19. Mpox vaccination, meanwhile, in Ottawa, is seeing a brisk uptake. People are very concerned about this disease, this monkeypox, and so they want to make sure they don't get it by taking the vaccine for it. After announcing on Saturday they were opening 36 spots for this Mpox vaccination campaign, they were full. They had lineups out the door. So I guess there's still all kinds of sheep in Ottawa. And this from the Defender. FDA, this is in the United States, obviously, has approved the vaccine for monkeypox. Warns, though, it may cause death in those who take the vaccine and people they come in contact with. All right, sir, I'm going to give you this Mpox vaccine. I just want you to know that it might kill you and anybody you come in contact with, your family, your friends, your wife, anybody. Oh, that's fine. Give it to me. Here, let me roll up my sleeve for you. It's amazing how these people will still continue to go ahead and do this stuff. Chet Chisholm is my guest tonight. Chet, you're muted. So if you could turn your mute off and say hello to everybody, that'd be cool. Thank you for coming on the show tonight, man. Really appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're welcome. How are you?
Good. So I want to get your reaction to this vaccine approval that we've just seen here. The one in the States, the one in Canada, the Moderna new COVID vaccine, the Mpox vaccine. You were vaccinated one time. You didn't go back for a second. What do you think about
No.
all this?
Well, it's what were the well, they've already mentioned like what the safety concerns are.
Anybody you love could die.
Yeah, like so it's the most important thing with regards to any medication or anything we do in medical practice is informed consent. So you need to tell them exactly what it is, well, what the risks are, what the benefits are, and then they get to choose. You don't get to choose for them. You can just put forward a recommendation, but that's it. It's it's lunacy to me. Um, like where's the need for this for one? It doesn't appear to be one for one, and it's like they're pushing this through awfully quick, right? It's as quick as the COVID vaccine, I guess,
How
if not
long did it
faster.
take the COVID vaccine to be created and then mass produced? This is something that always boggles my mind. By the way, we're going to give you guys background on Chet in just a couple of minutes because it's the first time on the show, but he has been on other shows across the country, obviously, and Viva Fry down in Florida. I think that's where Viva is now.
Yeah.
So they created this vaccine for COVID-19 as an mRNA vaccine, which is different from any other kinds of vaccine that we've ever seen in the history of human beings on this planet, vaccines.
Well,
And
mRNA vaccines have existed for a little while, but they've never gotten through the approval process. Like they've had them for like the Zika virus and stuff, and
yeah,
they've rolled them out in like little 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 test runs and stuff, but they never caught on. Is the COVID vaccine that got like steamrolled out the door and shoved in every arm imaginable
well, they never got through the testing process, so they never
because it always
actually did
killed
get approved,
people.
right? Yeah. So I'm sorry, but this vaccine kills everybody. We can't possibly put it out there. So they bring out these mRNA things and created a vaccine for a novel virus, which I find interesting. They were still calling COVID a novel virus at the time this vaccine rolled out. So novel being, we don't know anything about this virus, but we've somehow managed to come up with a vaccine for it. But what gets me more than anything about this is the speed with which they took control of all the supply chains across the world and managed to distribute this vaccine in record time. We're talking about billions and billions and billions of doses of this stuff to go worldwide across oceans, right? Get it down to Australia. You got to get it over to Europe. You got to get it over here. You got to get it over there. They managed to do this in what, a month? Maybe 2 months?
A
So
little
don't tell
longer than
me,
that, but like
don't tell me they weren't prepared for this. I mean, that still always boggles my mind. It's something I don't bring up very often because we haven't discussed the vaccine on this show in quite some time. But with all these approvals today and this Mpox thing coming out, we thought it would be a good time. So going back, how long was it when you took your first shot?
it'd
And
be May
let's give
21st,
people,
2021.
yeah, let's give people the history on you. You are a 12-year paramedic based in Nova Scotia.
13 years now, but I've
13
been off
years.
work for a few years now. So yeah, I've been a paramedic since 2011-ish, 2012, right around there. Was when I was going to school and started work. Um, I've done hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of 911 calls over the years. I've seen
How
all sorts
traumatizing
of
is
weird.
that, man? I mean, that's got to be something that you some nights you probably don't sleep very well after doing your
An
job.
insomniac to begin with. Like I'm diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's not from what you think. It's with post-traumatic stress, like anytime anyone sees something horrific, where you come across a car accident, you see a loved one die, or something terrible happens to you, like I don't know, sexual assault or anything of that sort of nature, anyone will get post-traumatic stress. It's the stress from the particular event. What happens is, and anyone can process that stuff given enough time and the right resources. And but what happens is when it goes from stress to disorder, is when it's people shame you for going through that event, or they try to screw you over, or they attack you, or dehumanize you while you're going through the process. Like when guys come back from Afghanistan and they get screwed over by like Veterans Affairs and the military and kind of get shunned like in their social circles. That's the time when like the post-traumatic stress turns into disorder. So, but like the blood and guts and all that of the job isn't what bothered me. It was the, the dehumanizing after the fact is what kind of tips most paramedics over.
The
I'm sure a lot of my
dehumanizing, well, no, the
after
dehumanizing of the victims or the like
of
of
us after bad calls and stuff. Yeah, like it's
how would that
the,
happen exactly? What do you mean a bad call?
oh well, anything that involves the death of a young person, any severe traumas, anytime you have like the death of a kid, like we're always supposed to debrief after all this stuff, but that doesn't always exactly happen. Um, Anything that involves like a murder or anything like that, there's always supposed to be like debrief and counseling after these things to kind of decompress because it's a very highly stressed scenario, right? And
Oh yeah.
but that it's unfortunately that doesn't happen enough that guys are taken care of after the fact.
Do you know exactly why you got post-traumatic stress disorder?
Oh, I sure do.
What
Um,
happened? If you could talk about it, if you don't want to talk about it,
no, I
that's
can talk
okay.
about it. It's fine. I'll just give you the Coles Notes version. Because it takes that would take all night. But basically, I suffered an injury at work, and some issues came up with that, and um, just not having my employer accommodate that wouldn't pay me when I would go into work and stuff, and had to get the union involved. And when the union got involved, and the employer got worse, and things kind of went from there. And was kept off work without a paycheck for some time. But eventually, when I did get back to work, my partner and I did a particularly dramatic call involving the death of a 17-year-old girl. Um, and afterwards, when I specifically said, like, hey, we need to debrief after this, like, my partner's not all right. This was um, pretty extreme. I won't go into the details on here to save people's ears, and because it's rather graphic. I don't have a problem talking about it. I just don't feel this is an appropriate place to talk about it. And afterwards, and I said, like, hey, we need a debrief, and the response I got was no, because like we had equipment failures, we had the death of a 17-year-old girl, and I had a partner who was struggling, and I was straight up told, no, you're not getting a debrief. The fire department did one. It's like, but I'm not on the fire department, and neither is my partner, and we don't live in that community. So what do you mean you're not doing a debrief? And they just said no. And then that kind of, like, with all the stress of everything that had built up, that's kind of what tipped me over and put me off
What's
work
involved
at that time.
in a debrief? Like when you just sit down and talk about the event, talk
Yeah,
about what
that's part of
happened.
it. So yeah, we walk through everything that happened. We talk about any things that went wrong, anything that could have been went better. And it's to check in on everybody, right? Because I've done a lot of bad calls over the years, and um, you try to get everyone together just so it's like a peer support thing, and to know that everyone's got it back, and it's like to actually like check in on someone, make sure they're doing okay. So usually when we would do them, it was an old retired RCMP guy that used to do them with us, and like we would go in, we'd walk through the call step by step, talk about everything that happened, and just it's it's just a means of processing it, taking it, normalizing it, processing it, so that people can, lock it away and move on. It's not to like diminish it or anything like that. It's just to take it all in, and to be able to sit with it amongst your peers, and just in a so you're
I
not
can't even
going to the
imagine. I
bottom
mean,
of the
I
bottle.
understand what you're going for here, Chet. I
Yeah,
can't even imagine having to live through something like that and then go on the next day like it's a normal day, right?
yeah,
So I
and
understand the need for a debrief for sure.
yeah, it's policy for anything that's particularly bad, and but
Was it because this particular case was a young girl?
Yeah, that's part of the reason. It's because it's any traumatic call involving young people, you're supposed to debrief at the very least. That's like, but if there's a death of a young person, it's like absolutely you're supposed to debrief after these things.
And so you didn't debrief, and so that
Nope.
that led
And
you
it's
down
just
a bad path.
kind of like, no, screw you, go away. And that's the like we just went through like the most hectic, busy call. Like I'll tell you what it is afterwards if you want. I don't want to. I don't think it's appropriate. Like
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have a
cool.
problem talking about it. I just don't think it's appropriate to talk about what took place on that call on here.
Yeah, well, you don't have to. It's just a matter of, to me now, you're not getting a debrief. You're told you're not getting a debrief,
Yeah.
which is completely disrespectful after what you
Yeah.
had just been through, right? And you needed, obviously, to have one. So that led you into a situation where it probably didn't hit you right away, did it?
No. So anytime like the way I always processed like bad 911 calls is we did anything like that. Like I've done other calls similar to it. I just tell them it's like, yep, I'm taking the next 2 days off. See you later. It's kind of standard practice. Like if you do a bad call, like particularly with kids, as long as like not always you can't always get off right away, but usually they'll send people home to go just go cool down, just get away from this for a little bit, and but yeah, I said like I'm gonna take 2 days off and decompress, leave me alone, and I'll be back.
Yeah.
And then when the time and it did nothing sat well with me because I was already at like there's a bunch of other things that were going on with like work and school and stuff, so I was already up here after having like a significant like workplace injury that kind of messed things up.
Straw that
And
broke the camel's back, I guess.
yeah, and it was just a like screw you, buddy. Like I don't care. We don't care that you guys just had a kid bleed to death on you. Like it's it's and then there's other examples like they did this to two of my friends when there was a bad murder suicide in my area where they just said go away. Like, and
How, how
it's
do they
just a
even
level of
justify that? Say
disrespect.
they're short-staffed? What
Oh
was the
God, yeah,
rationale?
it's well, we're short staffed like you wouldn't believe, especially now.
Well, I
It's
mean, like
just
the fact that you didn't get a debrief. I mean, was it just like
I was never
screw
it.
you?
No, it was just couldn't be bothered, I guess, because it was they just told me it's like yeah, the fire department did one. It's like yeah, but I'm not on the fire department, dude.
I wasn't in that, man.
Yeah, like the fire department was there with us, obviously, because we went to that community, responded to this house, and the fire department was there. We all worked together and did our job together. But like, you're required. Like the ambulance service is supposed to do this too, because we're separate services. Like the cops would, if the cops had been there, they would have had their own debrief. Like it'd be different if like we all got together and said let's do a debrief together, and that was communicated well enough because one of the girls I worked with was on that fire department. She said, "Are you coming to this debrief?" It's like they didn't even tell me it was a thing, and like by the time I get there, like I have to go to I'm not gonna say where I have to go to this place, and that's a bit of a drive. So by
Did
the
you
time I get there, you'll be done.
ever get a chance to talk to anybody about this particular incident?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So when and I don't have it. It doesn't bother me. Like if we weren't here, I could tell you all about it. But um, it was the dehumanizing nation factor, and it was a buildup of all of these things stacking that kind of broke straw that broke the
Was
camel's
this
back.
during COVID? Had COVID
No, this
started
was
yet?
in 2019, so this
Okay.
is just right before. And so I went off work in March of 2019. So I was put off on stress leave and on WCB, so workers' compensation, took over, and that's where I stayed leading up to COVID. So it was like 6-8 months before COVID started, and yeah, and so when this all kicked off, I was off work and just kind of watching from the sidelines and like this is a bit nuts. And like I knew about like COVID like before they even talked about it because like I know people in the Canadian Armed Forces and like they knew like guys that were coming back from Wuhan who were real sick. And one of those individuals who was telling me was in Ontario at the base where they came back to, and they ended up getting quite sick too. So I was like, oh, this is definitely a thing. um, and
So
but
when it became a pandemic of worldwide concern,
mhm,
did they call you back? Did they say, Chet, we're going to need you to come back? We're getting a way more
no,
emergency calls.
no, I haven't heard from anybody since I went off work, which was,
What?
geez, 5 years ago. Yeah, they never spoke to me.
But you
Yeah,
were off with compensation, workers' compensation, and that's kind of one of those, you know, one of those situations where you're going to be going back at some point, right?
ideally.
Well, what happened there?
So
Like they didn't
so
want
with
you? You got
no,
forgotten about?
well, there's a lot to this story. I
Pulls notes,
butt
man.
heads
Pulls
with,
notes.
yeah. Um, so what happened with treatment during COVID is, um, so I was supposed to start doing what's called like EMDR. It's like a really intense like therapy for like PTSD and trauma and stuff like that. And that was booked on the day that they declared lockdowns, and then everything shut down. You weren't allowed to go to treatment or anything, and like it was crazy. And then you just sat in limbo, and then they'd open things up. You get in for a couple sessions, and they shut Nova Scotia right back down again. And that happened off and on enough, so I never had a steady counselor um, or treatment plan ever set up. And the clock ran out, and because you're only allowed to be off on WCB for so long, and then I lost my job. And
Did they want you? Did they want you back? I mean,
well, I
you
never
must have
heard
been.
once from my employer, not
Well,
once.
you must have been frustrated
Yeah,
with
because
this whole
I
thing.
wanted to go back because the place was falling apart, and that's like when people ask like, why the hell did you take the COVID shot? It's like because well, I was hell bent to get back to work before I lost my job, and because like your benefits, your pension, all that's on the line, and you're watching all your colleagues like lose their mind because the whole system is falling apart because it's just being run into the ground. And like I'm just one person, it's just one dude going to work, but it's like um and like
When they came to you and said, "Look, man, like in order for you to go back to work, you're going to have to take one of these shots." What were you thinking at that point? Were you going like, "I don't know about
well, I had read
that,"
all the safety stuff that they had given,
which
and
was
it was just
nothing
well,
at that point?
I have some of it here saved for you. Like I can show you what was handed out. Like, and it was what they gave us, and like you're under a tremendous amount of stress because you're about to lose your career essentially. And like there's a sense of duty. It's like I got to get back to work because all my buddies are getting screwed over and stuff. um and I went through all the stuff that they gave us, like and they just went off and like said like, oh, here's the risk of allergic reactions. There's the occasional chance of Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is par for the course for any vaccine. And just it was kind of on par with other stuff because I've got a million billion vaccines because I work in healthcare. And it just you know sense of duty overrides better judgment, I guess. Because it's like if put me
I don't
back
want
in
you to
and
feel.
I'll deal with the I'll deal with the COVID
Well,
patients. I'm not gonna
yeah,
panic over it.
I don't want you to feel like I'm admonishing you for taking it at all
No, I don't give
because
a
I'm
shit.
not. Well, no, I'm not. It's just that because I've had people on here who have been vax injured in the past, and you ask them why they did it. Obviously, it's not to shake a finger. It's just as you point out,
Yeah,
everybo's got different
yeah.
motivations, right?
Where
I
was your
mean,
head at the time? What was the information you're working off of? And yeah, obviously the stuff that they gave us because I get and because like all my colleagues had to take it too, and like I didn't know of anybody that was injured at the time. I do now. Like I have colleagues that are injured. Um, and you just make a quick decision because it's down to the wire. You know, it's and
what happened to you when you took the shot?
well, I felt pretty crummy afterwards. Like I was fine at first, and then by the time I got home, I was pretty tired, lethargic, and like I was always like that after I got like other shots for work and stuff. I'm just like this is just my immune system kicking in, and I'm just gonna go to bed. and that feeling never went away, and it progressed to shortness of breath, and then like getting very difficult to do things around the house. I started to get a tinge of chest pain over the next little bit, and then ultimately collapsed in the yard when I was trying to help my dad move some firewood. Like I collapsed against a tree and had to be rushed to the hospital.
Were you passed out, or was it a shortness of
No,
breath thing?
collapsed with chest pain and shortness of breath, and like needed my dad to like help me get up and stuff.
Fall in that age range that they
Yeah,
talked about in the Pfizer papers, the younger men. I mean, you're what, mid to late 30s.
yeah. I was
So
35 at the time, and like around this time, like I used to be made out of rope. Like I was in the best shape of my life. Um, and yeah, that changed real quick, real quick. Um, anyways, went into the hospital, went in and with people that I work with and explained what was going on. And I remember I was talking to one of the nurses there, one of the guys that I work with, and he's a super cool guy. And he's like, Chad, Jesus, Chad, you look like shit. What the hell happened? I was pale as a ghost. I'm sweating. And like, I think, like, dude, I think I got like myocarditis or pericarditis or something. And he's like, lay back, like you lay back. And it's like, is that worse? I was like, oh yeah, it's like 10 times worse because the weight of your chest is pushing kind of on your heart there. And then like they did like EKGs and 12 leads and stuff. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm pretty sure you think you're right. And then the doc comes in later and goes, yeah, I think this is esophageal spasms, and just sends me home. And like this happens like 3 times because I keep going in over the next couple weeks. And
that's the ER doc, right? These guys are
yeah,
trained for that kind of thing. Quick diagnosis, and if it doesn't look like it's life
well,
threatening.
and it's like, how can a 35-year-old guy has no cardiac history come in with chest pain? It's got to be something else, obviously. But like, eventually, I had to argue with like my family doc, and I got my EKGs and blood work, and they were all abnormal and like textbook for pericarditis. And like, I won't go into all the nitty gritty details of that, but it's
Was that
just
a thing, Chet, at the time? Was it widely known that this particular formula that you took was causing that kind of thing, or was this pre
not
that? I mean, like
publicly.
there. Yeah. Okay. So a bunch of us who actually did read the Pfizer dump and all of the other stuff that came before it from uh, all of those vaccinologists who were warning us before this ever came out that this could be a thing. So, I mean, for me personally, and I think for most of the audience, we knew this kind of thing could happen. But you know what still amazes me even now is all of these doctors, all of these medical professionals out there who still are in absolute denial that this thing was damaging to people.
Oh yeah. Well, it's some of the stuff I'll show you when we get to it. Like the work, like Shelley Hipson is the one to thank for all of this stuff. Like in the Freedom of Information request, like you can go through, like she got like Strang's emails and Shelley Deek's emails and everyone at like, Nova Scotia Health, and them talking about myocarditis and blood clots and strokes and all that, like starting like as early as like January of 2021, and then they never told the public a thing until they were questioned by the media in, I want to say, October. And then they kind of released stuff and they said, oh, there's nothing to worry about. It's like, but then like you look at what they're actually saying and it's like, no, this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare scenario. And then right after all of that comes out, then they mandate it and said, yeah, you guys have it, 2 of these shots. Otherwise you're on administrative leave or fired. Actually,
Talking
they
about
did that to me on my birthday too. So I was like, you jerks.
You're talking about Nova Scotia where they released this
Yep.
information and then made it mandatory anyhow?
Mm-hmm. I'll show you the emails.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
yeah.
mean, go ahead. I'm interested. Like one thing you guys, you may or may not know is that Chet testified at the National Citizens Inquiry last year. I think that was the first one, right, in Truro?
Yep. I was one of the volunteers. I helped set it up, and I testified there. I did a little bit of work with. I've spoken at a lot of things over the course of this whole nonsense. Helped with like James Top, and I spoke at his panel thing in Ottawa and stuff.
I saw that
Um,
photo of you with James. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. James and I had a very long chat. I, kind of scared the crap out of him. I told him about all the vaccine injuries I knew about, what happened to me, and people in the Canadian forces that were injured and stuff. Just that's kind of what I've been doing since. But I testified at the NCI. It's if you want to get a Cole's Notes version of what happened. It's about 20 minutes, but like the story itself is longer than that. But this is the person that you need to thank for the information I'm going to show you. Shelley Hipson is known as the Queen of FOIP Ops of Nova Scotia. So she's the one that dug this all out. So don't thank me, thank her. She's the one who did it all. I'm just the one bringing it to you. You can see a lot of it on her website, which is shelleyhipson.ca, and everything is here, right from the Nova Scotia government. So anything I show you or read to you is from Freedom of Information requests that you can find on here. So you can just click on this and you can bring them all up. And they're all sorted by what they are. Like this is a HEA is a health one. So this one's, I would like to know the amount of COVID cases traced and tracked by public health employees and inmates inside the Spring Hill Institution of Correctional Service of Canada. But everything that I show you is from FOIP Ops, and I've got a lot of them numbered and stuff. So I pulled out just excerpts from them because there's thousands of pages.
Do you think that the information you're going to show us here tonight from Nova Scotia, is that pretty much similar to most other provinces, do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think as Dr. Byron Bridle put on blast stuff from BC and Odessa Orlowitz. I know she covered it on her show because they were showing how Bonnie Henry and friends were basically padding the numbers with regards to vaccine injuries, and because they're just reclassifying things so they can kind of bury the numbers. So that's something to look at. I can send you the links for that later. I don't have it ready here.
That's cool, man. Like, keep going here. I'm interested.
So let's start with two people in particular. So Dr. Robert Strang is the Chief Medical Officer of Nova Scotia, and he has been since, when the hell did he come? Since like 2007, I think. But what I will zoom in on this. So one of the things that's important to know about Strang is his medical career. So he did his what's it called?
Residency?
Training thing. His residency. Thank you. But he did his residency, and then after that, in '94, he became the team doctor for Canada's men's national rugby team. And he did that for 3 years, and that's his medical background. And then he sat behind a desk as a bureaucrat.
So he doesn't have any experience whatsoever in.
No. So he'd have his team like some concussions, broken fingers, maybe broken ankles, and a couple broken bones in young, healthy men that he would have handed off to paramedics or the emergency room, or sent anything else serious. So,
and that qualifies him to. There he is.
And that qualifies him to run a pandemic, right? The other individual involved is Shelley Deeks. She is the assistant to him. She joined a little later in COVID, but she specialized in like vaccinology and stuff. And one thing I thought was interesting is that, where is it? So in her research, so with vaccine safety, she was co-author of a 2018 paper evaluating pediatric vaccine safety funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So you make of that what you will, and if you think that is unbiased or not.
We get you.
Yeah, that's Shelley Deeks. So before we get into this, one thing that's worth noting, in the fall of 2020, like once we started getting into COVID, there was, when they rolled out the flu vaccine for that year in New Brunswick, there was 3 adverse events. People had what's called facial paresthesia. So they had like either numbness or pins and needles in their face from the flu vaccine. And that was enough to pull the whole thing. Nobody died. Nobody got myocarditis. Nobody had a stroke. Just 3 cases of facial paresthesia. So tingling or numbness in their face. That pulled the whole flu vaccine off the shelf.
That's in 2020.
That's in 2020. Like if you there's a couple other articles this, but I think even he's not cited in this one, but like even Robert Strang talked about it. And it's like, yep, we're gonna pull it for safety reasons. No, we'll come back to that.
I'm sorry, man. I just can't even believe that these people have any common sense whatsoever. So they're either very, very stupid or they're in on it, right? Right? I
Or
mean,
it's a
there's
sunk
no.
cost fallacy. Like we've gone this far, we got to keep going.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
I'm not sure. It's hard to say, and I think there's also Pfizer lobbyists that came through um, Nova Scotia, and so money changed hands. Just give me a sec. I'm just gonna close my window because the trucks are going by, and I don't want it to come through on the mic. So give me 2 seconds here.
Sure. This is fascinating stuff. Yeah, you know what, Michael? That's an interesting. When you talk about facial paresthesia, Chet, like, is that like?
Not Bell's palsy. Bell's palsy is facial paralysis. Paresthesia is an abnormal sensation. So typically, it's either a feeling of numbness or pins and needles. Like when you when you like sit on your as I did, I sat on my foot, and so my foot's asleep. That's kind of what like paresthesia is. Like it can be like a something to do with like aggravated nerve or whatnot. It can come from a multitude of things. To get this, I'm going to show you a couple things of what they were saying, and we'll go through a few more things, and then I'm going to show you what they were saying publicly, and then I'm going to show you what they were saying behind closed doors. Does that sound all right?
Excellent. That's great, man. I like
Okay,
it.
so
And very good staging too.
Yeah, I have to do it the other way because the way I have it right now, I won't give you any audio. So I have a couple of these that I'm going to share, and you let me know if you pull that up, and we'll make sure the volume's good on it. So, hear that
We
okay?
may have to mute ourselves.
Prior to being licensed by Health Canada, vaccines need to demonstrate their safety, and COVID-19 vaccines are no exception. All vaccines have side effects, including COVID-19 vaccines. Common side effects are divided into local and non-local reactions. So local reactions would include redness, swelling, pain at the injection site, and non-local reactions would include fever, a general feeling of being unwell, and fatigue. Serious side effects are rare. One serious side effect is an allergic reaction, and that is one of the reasons why individuals are asked to stay in a clinic after they receive a vaccine.
Makes sense. I mean, that's pretty standard, right?
Yeah. Well, so that was on. When was that? So I have a couple. That was on the 23rd of June, 2021. So I had already had pericarditis already.
Undiagnosed.
Officially undiagnosed. So here, let's watch this. So this is when, and there's, is that the right one? So this is them giving you an outline of myocarditis. And to give you an idea, so like these are like their big like talking points. This is the big important one on myocarditis. It's only got 4.6 thousand views. So nobody's seen this.
Hi, I'm Dr. Karina Topp. I'm a pediatric infectious disease physician at the IWK and a vaccine researcher at the Canadian Centre for Vaccinology, and my main research focus is vaccine safety. So what are myocarditis and pericarditis? Myocarditis means inflammation of the heart muscle, and pericarditis is inflammation of the sac around the heart. People with these conditions often have chest pain and may feel short of breath or like their heart is racing. Why is there concern about myocarditis, pericarditis, and COVID-19 vaccines? In Canada and other countries, there have been increased reports of myocarditis and pericarditis following COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. These reports most often involve young adults and teens, men more than women, and occur after the second dose of an mRNA vaccine. Cases of myocarditis and pericarditis are rare. Some people were admitted to hospital briefly. Most cases are mild and resolve with treatment and rest. Myocarditis and pericarditis generally occurs in the first week after an mRNA vaccine. If you feel chest pain, shortness of breath, or a racing or abnormal heartbeat after getting your vaccine, you should seek medical attention. What else do you need to know about myocarditis and pericarditis? COVID-19 itself can also cause myocarditis, as well as a severe condition called multisystem inflammatory syndrome that is associated with inflammation of the heart, blood vessels, and other organs. The risk of these conditions and other serious complications of COVID-19 are higher than the risk of myocarditis with the vaccine. Public health continues to monitor the risk of myocarditis and pericarditis after COVID-19 vaccines closely. Getting the COVID-19 vaccine is the best way to protect yourself and your family and friends against severe COVID-19.
Wait a minute. She had no basis to be saying any of that stuff in a public service announcement at that time.
And do you know the big thing that they left out of that was?
No.
That myocarditis is a medical emergency.
Well, myocarditis and pericarditis don't resolve, right?
Well,
I mean, that's a
they
chronic
will
condition.
resolve eventually with treatment, but they can become chronic, so a reoccurring thing. But the thing is even if, like, say somebody gets myocarditis or pericarditis and it resolves, is what injury does it leave in its wake? That's the big question, right? Because you can get scarring, and there's a multitude of things. So, like with myocarditis, it's the inflammation of the heart muscle itself. So that can cause damage to different parts of the heart, which can cause scarring, which can lead to trouble with the way the electrical pathway works in the heart, because your heart it conducts electricity, and that's what makes it contract, right? You have like sodium and potassium and calcium ions moving in and out, and that causes the electrical charge to change.
Heart
and it
muscle is the only muscle in the body
that does not regenerate.
Right.
It will scar, but it will not regenerate. And scar tissue does not contract, right? And it doesn't conduct electrical. You can't conduct, like, the electricity doesn't go through it as well. So you can get a cardiac arrhythmia in that regard. And in extreme cases of myocarditis, when you have inflammation, if that inflammation goes inwards, it decreases the size of your heart chambers. So you can get reduced blood flow. It could obstruct blood flow in some extreme cases. Like, this is in, like, a really extreme myocarditis. Like, there's no such thing as mild myocarditis, but there is more severe cases, obviously.
How many times, as a paramedic and a medical professional, and I'm not sure if we talked about this on or off the air, I think it was before we went on. How many times have you seen in your 12-year career as an active paramedic, how many times did you ever see a case of myocarditis or pericarditis?
Never. The IWK, which is a children's hospital in Halifax, would typically see between 2 to 5 cases in a year. And that's for a province of just under 1 million people. Peter McCullough told me when I was talking to him, I don't remember which time, I talked to him a couple times, prior to the vaccine rollout, even him as, like, a cardiologist, he only saw it twice in his entire career. Like, I never saw it clinically. There's an individual that I know personally that I think may have had it. But to give you an idea, that individual was 32, 33 at the time, and they're dead. It killed them. So whether it was myocarditis or not, I was never given a clear thing, but they had an enlarged heart when they died. So, adverse events were so rare that the ambulance service in Nova Scotia decided that it made sense to remove ambulance fees. So if you had an adverse event to getting the COVID vaccine, you wouldn't have to pay for an ambulance trip. And that was in June 15th of 2021. So yeah, that's really reassuring there, folks. So let me see. You want to see some of the stuff that they were talking about behind the scenes?
Yeah.
And then I'll show you a few more things, because
I'm waiting for that.
Yeah. So is that big enough? I can zoom it in a little bit.
Okay,
is that good? Is that good?
Yeah.
So these are just some excerpts from some of Shelley Hibson's freedom of information requests. And so when you see this number here, circling with my mouse, this is the reference number. So this is in 2022, this is number 1349, and it's a health one. And so this one's just going to be a collection of emails, and there is a lot more that I'm going to show you than what's here. Okay. There's hundreds of pages of this stuff. There's tons of pages of them paying social media influencers and the whole 9 yards. Like we won't be able to get into it all tonight, but this is starting on December 23rd in 2021. So this is right when they rolled it out to healthcare providers and people in like long-term care facilities. So like much older folks that are in continuing care. Sarah Fleming wrote to Dr. Robert Strang and company that, "Hi everyone, just wanted to make sure that make you aware that we had 2 reports of AEFIs. That's an adverse event following immunization, so vaccine adverse event from the immunization clinic. So number 1, these here are redacted just for patient privacy. You'll see a lot of these throughout, just so you don't have patient identifiers. Symptoms include swollen and tingling lips. It was recommended the client should consult Shelley McNeil. And the other one, symptoms include eye redness and itchiness in the eyes, forearm, and neck. So facial paresthesia, by the sounds of the first one, or some form of allergic reaction, the first one. Then we get to January 28th. And this is from Maureen Carew to Dr. Robert Strang and company. Hi, Rob and Gaynor. In case you receive any queries, I'm looking into an adverse event following immunization following the death of a resident vaccinated in a long-term care facility, blank, female who received the Moderna COVID vaccine and died. We have a temporal association, but I don't think it's a causal one. I'll be obtaining more information on the cause of death, etc. So there's the first one. That's on January 28th, 2021, before these are even readily available to the public.
They don't confirm in this email, though, that this is actually a vaccine death. They say that the person here died after getting the vaccine, but they don't put the two together. Is that, I wonder if that's an ass covering measure?
Well, some of them will be coincidental, right? Especially when you're dealing with very old folks, especially in long-term care facility. So right. Is this guaranteed to be a vaccine death? No, it's not. But you should maybe pump the brakes for a second and just, hey, maybe we need to be
and have a look,
take
around.
A breath.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure.
This is going to ramp up real quick. So April 13th. Hi, and I won't say where they're all from. People can read it. Hi, Shelley and Terry. I received an adverse event report regarding a blank who developed DVT, which is deep vein thrombosis, which is a blood clot, typically like in their legs, after receiving AstraZeneca, which was administered on blank. April 15th. Some unusual adverse events have come in today. Stroke, thrombotic events, pulmonary embolism, that's a blood clot in your lungs. Thrombocytopenia alone, no thrombosis or thrombocytopenia. April 16th. Hello, everyone. 2 additional serious adverse events were reported this week in the immunization summary. The total number of serious adverse events is now 4. So the first one is from Pfizer. It's an ischemic stroke, which means that a blood vessel has been blocked in the brain, either through a thrombus or a blood clot. And then the other one is just dyspnea, fatigue, chills. That one's not too concerning. Let's continue.
And this is April of 2021. Well, they're still telling us, "Oh, get out there, get this. It's safe. Yep. It's good."
Oh, it's going to get worse. Don't worry. This is where I even took the shot, and I'll show you the stuff that they gave us and healthcare professionals in terms, because it's in one of these things here. So April 16th. Please be aware of an adverse event reported today or confirmed encephalopathy. So it's disease of the brain. Received Moderna and developed neurological symptoms. April 19th, please be aware of adverse event report today, confirmed encephalopathy. That's the same one again. April 19th, hi all, just letting you know about a death in blank, reported post-Pfizer vaccine in a blank, that would be their age, male. This death has been entered in a panorama. That's the vaccine injury tracking software. I will look at the details from the attending physician. April 29th, same one again. June 1st. Hi all. Oh my God, I can't remember what VITT stands for. Vaccine-induced thrombo something. It's like your blood clot, your platelets and stuff get all out of whack. So that one's VITT.
Look at all those redactions.
This
Look at
is yeah. Well, it's to protect patient privacy. Anything that says 20 and then 1 is it's protecting a patient privacy. So like this would be like a patient's like health card number or something, their age, where they live.
There's nothing on this. I mean, if they used black boxes, then this would be an entire black box.
Yeah,
here.
we'll get to more. Well, they just can't identify patients. It's a privacy thing. Like if there's if they put like, hey, there was a 35-year-old paramedic who got pericarditis on such and such a day. Well, you figure out who it was, right? Like I don't care. People know that I have it. Now, so this is on June 12th to Shelley Deeks. Hi, this is a quick summary of the 24 adverse events that have come across my desk from June 7th to 11th. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 5 days. 3 anaphylaxis, 5 allergic reactions. We had a seizure, erythema multiforme, just a rash, petechia rash, so that's like redness of the eyes, hypothyroidism, pericarditis. There's a pulmonary embolism, again, blood clots in the lungs, vitreous detachment. I forget what that specifically refers to, or ashes, but then we get into the good ones. So somebody who has a cardiac arrhythmia, a thrombotic stroke, so a blood clot block in the brain, blood vessel in the brain. We have pericarditis, an ischemic stroke, a hemorrhagic stroke, so a blood vessel popped and they're bleeding in their brain, and then somebody died of a pulmonary embolism.
In 5 days.
5 days. 5 days.
And we should probably, because it's tough for people, Chet, to go back and remember all, because everything that's happened, right, in the last few years. I mean, this is June of 2021.
It's 3 years ago.
Yeah, people, the vaccine was pretty new. I think they started rolling that thing out in January of that year. And then, of course, they did the graduate.
They put it out for healthcare professionals in December, January. At that time, I declined because it's like, I'm not at work. I'm not dealing with COVID patients. So no, thank you. But because I was running out of time to go back to work. And so I took it at when my age bracket became available. So people in their 30s, which was in May. So this thing was still rolling out to the public at this point. I don't even know if they had it in kids yet. So the ones I marked in red are the ones that I thought were particularly juicy. So on June 18th,
as the rollout continues, it gets worse and worse and worse with these reports.
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep going.
It's gonna get worse even still.
Yeah. So from June 14th to 18th. So again, another 5 days. Here's 20 adverse events that have come across my desk. We've got 4 anaphylaxis, 2 allergic reactions. I don't know what ISSR is. We got pericarditis. We've got hypertension with tachycardia. That's a racing heart. We've got another seizure with an ischemic stroke. Another case of pericarditis. A STEMI, which is that's a fancy term for saying a heart attack. An STL elevated, myocardial infarction, and then bilateral pulmonary embolism, so blood clots in both lungs. And then somebody got colitis. This is the same one from before. Yeah. So I'll just start scrolling through them just so you can see some of them, and then I'll stop on the ones that are marked in red because I thought they were particularly interesting. So on July 12th, 2021, again, this is still not even mandated yet. Hi, Dr. Why Not? We have several myocarditis/pericarditis reports that we received today. This is the first one, signed Noella. And there's a couple playlists, the information. And thanks, Leslie. The team knows to send surveillance to whatnot. And then we get to good old Dr. Robert Strang, and his response is concerning that there's multiple cases of myocarditis. And we'll get to those numbers a little later. This is in July 12th. And again, you saw
there's still
nothing is said.
But it's not nothing because they're still promoting the hell out of it. And they're at this stage of the game, they are shaming people for not going to get it.
And so like every time you see one of these lines, like this is all just adverse events. There's a bunch of Bell's palsy for you. Some palpitations, abdo pain, yada yada. Good morning. Summary of adverse events coming across my desk. Death reported last week changed to a stroke, and the data that is found to be incorrect. Guillain-Barré syndrome, paresthesia of the face. Remember, there's 3 cases right there. That pulled the flu shot in 2020. Chest pain, heart palpitations. Again, we keep going.
Chet, let me ask you, do you believe that this formula, this gene therapy, did protect people at least at some point from
No.
the disease itself?
No, I don't. And so Jessica Rose would be the one to explain this better than I can. She is the immunology guru. I know how to pull you out of a car and bang on your chest to keep you alive, and do all that stuff. And
track Jessica down.
Yeah, I can put you in touch with her. I know Jess and I talk. But here's the Coles Notes Luddite version, simple version. So typically when you get a pathogen comes into your body or you get vaccinated, your body's going to create an immune response and it's going to create antibodies. So it knows what to look for and whatnot. Or it tells your immune system what to do. The problem, one of many problems with the COVID vaccine, is the antibodies that it produces aren't good antibodies. They're what's called IgG4 antibodies. And normally, like your other antibodies teach your immune system to the response is to go out and kill things. What IgG4 does is, as opposed to being kind of like the soldiers of like the immune system stuff, they're more like the diplomats. They go around and they say, don't worry about that. That's Shadow, that's Chet. Don't kill that. That's us. Because
let's sit down and have a cup of tea and perhaps we can discuss going any further into the body.
Because your body's producing this, and so it's getting mislabeled as part of you. So your IgG4 antibodies go around and go, nope, don't do it. It's okay. That's just you. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, it's toxic and damaging your cells and stuff. And so whenever people encounter COVID and stuff and that spike protein, they get these IgG4 antibodies roll out and go, nope, that's us. Don't worry about that. And the immune system kind of powers down, as opposed to amping up and killing the thing. That's the simplified version of it. It's a little more complex than that, but that's the dumbed down version. So because you do need IgG4 antibodies, it's so your body doesn't eat itself, right? And it's the body gets confused and thinks COVID is you because of that. All your cells are producing the spike protein.
All these immunologists were talking about, that very thing happening that you just said there with all these autoimmune diseases that were going to start popping up. And guess what? They've started popping up because of all of this. Because this thing is so badly screwed up so many immune systems out there. Yeah. Among other things, spike protein, not even going to get into that at this stage.
Yeah. So there's more adverse events reports and stuff, because they're not all in the emails, right, that we got. But this is when they start talking to the media, because the media starts asking questions in October because they get their hands on one of these Freedom of Information requests that Shelley did. So again, all of this, thanks Shelley Hipson. She's the best. Have you spoken to her yet?
It's possible. I don't know. I've spoken to so many people, but I'm sure I'd remember.
Yeah. If not, I can put you in touch. She's a wonderful lady.
I'd like to get you both on at the same time. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Because I'm her and I are working together, and I'm helping Paul Westhaver a little bit with some stuff, as well as Jeff Evely, because Jeff Evely's in court right now fighting a mask violation thing, and so they're pulling all stuff out of these FOI pops. But so this is what happened when the media contacted them. So the Chronicle Herald, which is the Halifax newspaper. So this is from, I think it's Andrew Rankin is his name. So it goes, hi, Shelley. Below is a media inquiry from the Chronicle Herald. I've also included a response we've used in the past for a different inquiry that you could think of used here. Would you like to see any changes to this? Question. I've spoken to a few doctors in the province who say adverse events from COVID-19 vaccines are being underreported by doctors in Nova Scotia. Is the department aware of this? If so, what is being done about it? How is the department ensuring that doctors are documenting all adverse events Is there a website or public database listing all the documented adverse events that have occurred in Nova Scotia since the beginning of the vaccine rollout? They redacted their response. Is it done?
Why would they redact the response? They're not protecting anybody's privacy in that situation.
I don't know. So here's the actual email from Andrew Rankin. So, hi, Barb. I'm writing a story because this is the full thing, and that was the summary of what they said. I'm writing a story that includes Nova Scotia doctors saying some doctors in the province are seeing/treating cases of adverse events following COVID vaccines that they are required to report to Nova Scotia Public Health, but are not. They say they've seen cases where people have gotten medical attention within days of the vaccine, such as young adults and teenagers with palpitations or chest pains and blood clots, and the treating doc has not reported the event to public health as required. It's actually required by law, by the way. They say doctors are underreporting adverse events following COVID vaccine, and it is a significant problem. They offer a number of reasons for this, from a lack of guidance from public health about reporting adverse events cases, to the amount of time it takes to fill out the adverse events reports, to doctors deciding not to report because they want to get as many COVID shots into arms as possible. Could President Dr. Rob Macquarie respond to what these doctors are saying? Is Doctors Nova Scotia confident that when doctors see patients with adverse events following COVID vaccines, that they are required to report to Nova Scotia Public Health, and that they are doing so? Why or why not? Does Doctors Nova Scotia believe the province should be more transparent with COVID vaccine safety surveillance program data, such as in Ontario and BC? Should the Nova Scotia government be doing what those provinces are doing and regularly sharing with the public numbers of adverse events being reported by medical professionals, breakdowns of serious and non-serious events, and what those adverse events are? Thanks a lot, Barb. My deadline's Friday. So this is the response that they give from Nova Scotia Health. Hi, Andrew Rankin. I know his name because I have his article. I'm going to show it to you next. This is incredibly concerning. We are not hearing any concerns of adverse events reporting post-COVID vaccination. If we did, we would report immediately to the College and Public Health. These allegations are incredibly serious. What did I just show you? This is in October, that they've been seeing it since December. Is almost a year of them being reported.
Outright lie.
It's an outright
That's an
lie.
outright lie.
Flat out lie. Where was I? Physicians report adverse events regularly for all kinds of immunizations and have done so for years. Each province has its information and process clearly outlined. Here's Nova Scotia. So they provide the link. What you and these, and they put this in quotes, physicians are implying is negligence. And if the physicians you're speaking with are not reporting their colleagues at the college, it is negligence on their part. I strongly encourage you to be sure that the physicians you're speaking with have factual information.
Not only are they saying that this is not happening, that these allegations are quite serious, and they're starting to throw other doctors under the bus for not reporting these things. That's outrageous.
Worry, it gets worse. So here's the article that Andrew Rankin posted, and I never saw this until I read that email like a couple months ago, and then I found this article. So this is dated October 30th, 2021. Vaccine has still not been mandated for healthcare workers yet. We're getting there. Well, it's been announced that it's coming, right? They announced it months ahead of time. So in it, and I won't read the whole article, I'm just going to show it. There's one key thing. So like they show a breakdown of the age range, the different types of things that are happening. The other notable things, there's 200 cases of blood clots, 773. Oh, this is from Canada-wide, but like heart attacks, spontaneous abortions, blah, blah, blah. All lovely stuff. There's indication saying that this is required by law, that it needs to be reported. But what I really want to show you is when we get down, we see the picture of Dr. Robert Strang, because, you know, you bury the really important thing in here. So in July, Dr. Robert Strang, Nova Scotia's Chief Medical Officer of Health, this is under the picture, by the way, reported 22 cases of myocarditis and pericarditis had been identified in Nova Scotia. And that was by July.
And nobody did anything.
Nobody did a fucking thing.
Wow.
Pardon my language.
That's Andrew Rankin. This guy, is he still alive?
Yeah, he did he's
because
you can get his contact stuff.
He's doing a report here.
Yeah.
And you know, I vilify the media all the time because I know what they're up to. I spent 35 years in it, and I know exactly what they're doing. And to see somebody like Andrew Rankin, reporting for Salt Wire, ask these questions at the appropriate time when he found out about it. That's very courageous what he did.
Yeah.
Did he
Good
ever
on you,
follow up?
Meg.
Has he ever gone further on this, or did he leave it? And I'm
I'm not
wondering
sure.
if that's interesting. We should probably get a hold of this guy and see if he's done any more reporting on this stuff, because what you're showing us
I
here,
haven't
Chet,
seen anything specifically. But yeah, but he did a very good job, and that article's done very well. It's done very fair. He doesn't take a stance. He just presents it like it is, as
what
this
you're
information
showing
they
us here is incredibly damning stuff.
get.
And that, I mean, you'd
Keep
think
going.
that Andrew would be very, very happy to get some of this stuff from you. Have you sent it to him at all? If
Well,
he's the one reporter who
well,
actually seems willing?
he, the stuff that he was reporting on in that article is some of the stuff I showed you. Like I'm showing you the emails that there's like charts and stuff plotting this stuff out from around that time too, and he was looking at those, I think, because this all was released around the same time. Because he was in contact with Shelley Hipson, and so she provided him with the information to write that article. If I recall correctly. Sorry, I may not have that quite right, but as I remember, that's what happened.
See,
As far as I know, he is.
They have the same questions I've been asking here. Is the guy still
Okay.
alive? Did they get him?
So I don't have the emails up because they've redacted a whole bunch of it, but like in those freedom of information requests, and we're going to go back to emails in a bit. Robert Strang and company are all like spurging out and going, oh my God, the media is asking questions. They're going to cause vaccine hesitancy. What are we going to do? Try this response. And there's no point showing it to you because it's all redacted. But you can go in there and you can read it being redacted and them freaking out. It's like, well, we need to create a public statement. And so here's their statement, because this is right on the Nova Scotia website. And I'm just going to read. I'll read the first paragraph, and then I'm going to skip to where they bury the lead. So it's been almost 20 months since the start of the pandemic in Nova Scotia. During this time, we have witnessed the resiliency of Nova Scotians, the commitment of our healthcare workers, the strength of our healthcare system, and the successful implementation of the largest vaccination program in our history. Great. Oh, and recent media coverage on the reporting of adverse events following immunizations would have you believe that our healthcare providers are ill-equipped to recognize, manage, and report these reactions. This is not the case. However, let's go to the bottom. Nova Scotians should know that our rates of serious adverse events, and so what classifies as serious is seriously injured, hospitalized, disabled, or dead. That's the 4 qualifications of serious. And that's from their own documentation.
Minor tingling in the face.
Yeah. So
they got the flu vaccine taken off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not tingling, not getting hives or anything. And the adverse event rates are low, and about 7 for every 100,000 given doses. Do you know what that equates to? It's 1 in about 14,000 people are seriously injured, disabled, hospitalized, or dead.
Never mind the other adverse reactions, which can be just as, well, maybe not nearly as bad as quickly, but they can be bad.
Yeah. And by this point, here's some of their adverse reactions, and we'll go back to the emails in a bit here. So total adverse events that are reported are 634, with 112 of those being serious. That number skyrockets later. But here's a key thing, and so when was this? This is up until November 30th, 2021, which was when they mandated this thing. So on my birthday, when they said, no more job for you, they had, we look at, we'll zoom in for you so you can see. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there we go. Over 50 cases of myocarditis and pericarditis. Oh yeah.
You would
52
never
cases.
see.
52 cases that you never see. That's 52. And Most of them, 69% of them, were in young adults under the age of 30.
And like you
Uh,
said, Dr. McCullough told you that he had seen, as a heart specialist, he had seen 2 cases in his entire career. 2.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
I made a joke when I spoke at the James Top event in Ottawa. I spoke with Ken Drysdale, actually, and Ken made the joke about your odds of getting run over by a bulldozer are higher than dying from COVID. And he provided like the stats on it and made a big joke out of it. When I went on and spoke after him, I said that it's interesting because in my career, I've responded for a kid who's been run over by an excavator, and I've seen that more than I've seen cases of myocarditis. What does that tell you?
Until now.
Yeah.
Or the last.
That kid's
couple
okay,
years,
by the way.
Good. I was about to ask.
Yeah,
How is that
kid? He wasn't good at the time, but he's good now.
Hey, as a quick aside, because I know we're going through all of this stuff and you're blowing people away, including myself, with these. Have you stayed in touch with any of the people that you rescued from situations? Do they want to thank you with things like, how does that work? Is it just like you save them and then you move on with life?
I'll show you one at the end. How about that? We'll end on a positive note. But I will share a brief. So when I went on with Viva, almost 2 years ago now, and I told him about the NCI and what happened to me and stuff, because I tried to get to the trucker convoy in Ottawa, but I was too sick. I got to about Quebec and had to stop and turn around, and I wasn't allowed in anywhere. I couldn't rest anywhere. It was awful. I was sick as a dog. It was the most sick I've ever been in my life. So I tried to, because nobody was talking about this stuff that I knew, and so I was gonna go find Viva and tell him. And eventually, I just went on the show with him. I was like, "This is what's happening," and here's the NCI. And then I recruited him in to testify and stuff. But after I spoke on his show, I had somebody reach out to me on social media. They just messaged me on Twitter from a Twitter handle 123. It wasn't like an actual name, but the person said, it's like, "You don't know me, but I know who you are, because when my dad went to the hospital, it was you and your partner who transported him, and he's talked about you and your partner for however many years it's been. And he still talks about you to this day, and thanks to you, I still have a dad." So yeah, it's a pretty surreal and humbling thing.
Very humbling, but so cool.
Yeah, it's the best job in the world, man. As much as you hear me grumble and stuff here tonight, and so there's a lot of bullshit and people getting screwed over, but it's the job itself I wouldn't do any. You couldn't convince me to do anything else. You'd be hard pressed. Yeah.
What makes you do this that you're doing now? You're breaking down all of these numbers and going through all of this information that Shelley provided. I mean, what pushes you to do this?
Right thing to do. As paramedics, our job number one is to be a patient advocate. And what I saw during COVID was a complete lack of patient advocacy. And so I may not have my job anymore, but I'm still a paramedic at heart. So I need to keep doing this, because people need to know what was done to them, to their loved ones, and to their community, so that they can seek help and they can feel comfortable coming forward, and so that we can get accountability. That's the only way we can move forward and heal as a country, right? What I turned off a lot of my social media at the start of COVID because I saw people losing their minds. The people who got legit COVID, not something that was recategorized, which was everything, to be COVID. A lot of those people did get quite sick. I know a few of them. But I remember someone who I used to be friends with, their mom took on what came out of retirement, went back to work as a nurse to work in one of the long-term care facilities to help. And I remember that group of friends talking about oh yeah, well, what your mom's doing is selfish. If she's gonna get COVID and bring it home and make everybody sick, and maybe we should just it's a pandemic. We just need to do what's necessary, and you just leave those people to their own devices. And you people are fucking disgusting. That is the most unethical thing I've ever heard, because like you don't do that. You don't just abandon the vulnerable people to let them get sick. Like it's and not take care of them. Like it's
Well,
like
these are
what
the same
this woman,
people,
yeah,
the same
who
people
are
who were saying that, like the unvaccinated should die and not get hospital care, not get medical care, that kind of thing. I mean, those are the kind of people that would flash their vaccine card in your face and say, I'm going to the hockey game. I guess you can't go, Mr.
yeah,
Principals. That's what they would do. And it's, you want to talk about disgusting. I mean, through all of this, I mean, there's been a lot of disgusting things. You're showing us some disgusting things right now, but the way people acted to one another and still do,
yeah,
based on something else now, whether it's climate change or the transing of kids, whatever it happens
yeah,
to be, they're still acting that way. Not as
yeah. Like,
many,
and
probably, but it's still
part of the
there.
reason why I took this stupid thing is like, well, I'm going to deal with COVID patients. Just put me in. I'll go deal with them. Like if people are going to act like this, somebody's got to go and be an advocate for these people, right? Like in COVID clinics or long-term care facility. It's like, yeah, I'll do it. COVID doesn't. I'm not worried about COVID. I know I was going to get it because I'm going to go right and look. Someone's going to cough it right in my face, and whatever. I'll get sick and we'll bounce back. But yeah,
Most
it is what it
cases
is.
of that virus, when they started saying things like, well, chances are good, you don't even know you've got it in
Yeah.
many cases, and you could still
Well,
be a spreader of it. I mean, like, come on. Like, this is,
I'm gonna. I don't think I have it queued up here, but I'm gonna pull something else up as well on what actually qualified as a COVID case officially by the government. Because I can pull that up for you. Well, let's pull that up right now.
sure.
Canada.
Dude, it's getting late. I seen some people from the East are going, I'll watch the rest tomorrow. I'm tired. Getting sleepy.
I'm a night hawk. I'm used to working night shifts. I'm used to coming off work at 7 o'clock in the morning, so it doesn't bother me any. So
Sharon
this
wants to
is
know what happened to the flu back then. Everything was convid, she
it
says. And
was,
I say, yeah, I know. Like, what,
and I'm gonna show you how it was.
how did they die? Oh, are you going to do that? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a good question then.
So
Thank
here you
you,
go.
Sharon, for that one.
This is right from the government of Canada. And the internet is not forever, so I have this page downloaded too as a PDF, just because in case they ever decide to delete it. So right here on a deceased case, I'm going to read this to you. Okay, so a probable or confirmed COVID-19 case whose death resulted from a clinically compatible illness. So anything that has shortness of breath, chest pain, general malaise, like makes you tired, headache, anything that gives you cold symptoms, anything. A lot of people at end of life have a lot of those symptoms, shortness of breath, unless there's a clear alternative of cause of death, such as trauma, poisoning, and drug overdose. Also, a medical officer of health, such as Robert Strang, Shelley Deeks, Bonnie Henry, all those fun people, or relevant public health authority, coroner, or medical examiner may use their discretion when determining if a death was due to COVID-19, and their judgment will supersede the above-mentioned criteria, so they can just decide which one. Or a death due to COVID-19 may be attributed when COVID-19 is the cause of death or is a contributing factor. And also, when it comes to PCR tests, I know here in Nova Scotia, they were typically running those PCRs between 25 and 42 cycle thresholds, which is going to spit you back nonsense. So if you sort of look for it, you could find Nicolas Cage in somebody when you're using those numbers, right?
Yeah. Right. What about the
It's like this
rapid
guy was killed by
testing?
Nicolas Cage. Um,
What about the rapid testing? I mean, you stick the thing in your mouth for 30 seconds and it would give you a reading. I thought that was the stupidest thing, like a
Yeah,
mood ring. Not
PCR is
real.
a forensic tool, not a diagnostic one. It lets you know if
Mhm.
something was there, and it's not even specific to COVID. Like it could have been any coronavirus. And when you're running it at those numbers, it could have been a coronavirus you had 10 years ago.
Well,
Like
that's
I'm
what
not an
Gary
expert in any
Mullis
of that stuff.
said. I mean, the guy
Yeah,
who invented the thing, there's a full video of him saying
yeah.
exactly what you just said, right?
If you swab a room and you find a couple drops of blood, it doesn't mean you found a murder. It means that you found blood. It could have been somebody scratched a fly bite. They could have had a runny nose. They could have stubbed their toe, right? It's the same idea. It's a forensic tool. It just lets you find something. It doesn't mean the person's actually sick. Um, shall we keep going? How much time do
Yeah.
you got left? Okay.
Oh, let's see. You know what? However long you want to take, man. And by the way, guys, we're keeping this. Usually, I would have cut to my extension on the website right now, which is an all access feature that I have on my website. But I think that the information that you're sharing tonight with us, Chet, is too important to keep from people. So I
Yeah,
am going to
and
keep this going for as long as you're here. We're still going to do,
yeah,
by the way, guys, for all access, we are still going to do an extension on the website, but we're going to keep Chet here till he's done on
yeah.
socials.
And like this is, I'm just showing you a bit of it. This is, we're looking through the keyhole, right? We're not looking at everything. Like we'd be here for days looking at all of it. Um, let me see
Maybe we should
here.
do a telethon type show like that then.
Yeah,
That'd be
again,
cool.
here we are, December 10th. They're still rolling in with Bell's palsy and stuff, chest pain. Let me see. There's some more Bell's palsy. That's the paralysis of the face, by the way, that we talked about earlier. Again, more allergic reactions, pulmonary embolism and stroke. Again, it keeps going and going and going. So this is good. So like, because they talked about, and I cut a lot of emails out of this, by the way. They talked about what they needed to do to report on this stuff. And so they built a little website that has all the reports. And I think I have it up here. And so this email with people within the Nova Scotia government, Nova Scotia Health, goes, "Hey, Sarah, can you send a number of hits we get on the adverse events report on the website? Shelley and I were curious." And this is in May 2nd of 2022. So a year after I had been vaccine injured. And here are the numbers, if you can see that. So of all the pages, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages there. And the total number of views on the first one is 21, then 0, 0, then 2, then 25, and then 11. So the only people that probably saw this website where they purported this stuff, which was hidden basically at the back of the closet, are the people that fucking work there.
Oh man.
So
they never
nobody
advertised
has
it.
seen it.
Yeah.
And so not very many. Winky face.
That is by not very many. So they are actively keeping it away from the public.
Yeah. Oh, it's published, but nobody knows where it is. It's like, well, I published it. Well, where'd you put it? Oh, it's under the bed.
Yeah.
It's under Robert Strang's bed. Like, that's where we published it.
Oh, it's way further than under the bed, man. That's the first place I'd look if I knew they were hiding something from me.
Yeah.
It's buried deep someplace, right? And you got to have a treasure map to find it. That's crazy.
And so in the next email, it goes, "For your information, not very many hits to the adverse events report. Katie and I would be counted in at least a few of those page views listed below, so actual viewership is even lower. Discussion of how frequently we do this report seems merited. In terms of possibly making an upcoming change to the frequency of reporting, perhaps we want to look at quarterly at most, or shift frequency based on how the vaccine program is rolling out." So no one's looking at it. So, or is there any reason for us to even do this?
Definitely a worthwhile discussion. I would support quarterly. Maybe we can discuss when we next meet. Oh my God. How do these people even sleep at night?
Pillow made of cash. It's my guess.
Have you ever considered hiring legal counsel and trying to go after these people for misfeasance?
I don't exist as a vaccine injured individual, so need to get that resolved first.
Right.
I need to be officially diagnosed with something before I can ever go after anyone. Because, like, so to back up, like when I brought my concerns forward, and we'll go back into these in a minute. So I've been a paramedic for over a decade. I'm quite good at reading EKGs, and blood work is easy. You just cross-reference it. You just need to know what certain things apply to what. But when I brought forward and said, like, to my doc, because this is going to sound like Greek for a second. But when I pointed out in my EKGs, like I got concave ST elevation, I've got spodec sign after the T wave, I've got PR depression, and my P waves and leads 2 and V1 are enlarged in the latter half, pointing to left atrial enlargement. That's all of that points directly to pericarditis. And his response was, I know that made no sense to you, was, you need to shut the fuck up. I don't care what it is you think you see. We are not entertaining any ridiculous rabbit hole you want to go down. You're not getting a cardiac MRI. You're not getting a cardiac stress test.
A medical professional told you that.
My family physician.
And how long have you been seeing your family physician?
34, 35 years.
So
since I was a wee kid.
How does this doctor have the right to say that? I mean, has
I'm a paramedic. Paramedics can't read EKGs apparently.
So is he a man or a woman?
It's a dude. Yeah.
It's a dude. All right. So this doctor, has he ever spoken to you that way before?
He's been rude. Well, he's been pretty rude about PTSD and stuff.
For all of this, like, because you spent all that time with him. Has he been a reasonable doctor?
Until I became a paramedic.
All right, then he felt challenged and threatened by you because you were able to diagnose things that he could diagnose, and so he pulled
like
rank on you, right?
Yeah, I could pull it up and show it to you, and like I did it at the NCI. I showed people, it's like, who aren't like medically qualified, and explained like EKGs and stuff and how they work. It's a graph measuring the electrical activity going through your heart is what it is, and if you have changes to the way that electrical activity goes through, you'll get shifts in the waveform, right? Like if you are plotting a car driving along on a road and the road changes, you'll see the car's velocity change, right?
Everything that you've been through, all of the symptoms that you've displayed,
textbook.
You reported to this doctor, textbook, and yet he refuses to do any real testing on it.
Yep. I've spoken to other docs.
Did you tell McCullough that, by the way?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What did he say? What did he say?
He says unbelievable. Because like when I first met Peter, it was on Jason's show about a year ago, and I explained everything, and I just walked through, and I just talked cardiology, and McCullough was just beaming. He just took a moment after I was done explaining stuff, and he said all the resident docs who may be listening to this is who you need to listen to, and this is why you need to listen to paramedics. It's like,
amazing how much McCullough has lost in the last few years.
He's a wonderful guy. I really like him.
I've spoken to him as well. What he's lost in terms of reputation and notoriety in the medical community based upon the stance he's taken in the past 4 years, and still managing to do what he's doing, which is the wellness company, right?
Yeah.
And still advocating for people like yourself. Incredible.
He's done a lot to help Kayla Pollack too, like behind the scenes.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys obviously remember Kayla. She was one of the vaccine injured who's now in a wheelchair. She's been on the show a couple of times, and I should get her back because it's been a while since we've spoken. I hope she's doing okay.
Yeah, as far as I know, because I was talking to like Drew at the event there. He said she was doing pretty good. Like
that's good news.
But like it's like things will pick up like in her like realm once the lawsuit starts. So like there'll be more attention then. Like that's when like it'll start grabbing some more media attention. But yeah, like McCullough worked with Drew and them to try to help facilitate things. And I think Peter's going to be one of the expert witnesses in her court case. Yeah,
that's great.
So
that's great.
Let's take a look.
Let's continue.
We
got a little sidetrack there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I have a few other things I can show you. I'll just have to find them and pull them up. So this is in January 11th of 2023. So about a year and a half ago. So this is an email coming into Nova Scotia Health. It says, "Good day all. I just spoke with Dr. Bevington regarding Jonathan's questions below to clarify the diagnosis of pericarditis, myocarditis, or both with a suspected relationship to a vaccine." And so this is the response Any thoughts Leah Turner's had, blah, blah, blah. So Dr. Bebbington had some questions regarding who is responsible for reporting adverse events. I advise that any provider who is aware of or suspects an adverse event should be reporting it. Dr. Bebbington advised that he often sees patients for pericarditis and myocarditis following COVID vaccines, and that he feels that this is not being reported by ER docs and family docs. He also advised that he has no way of knowing if a report has already been made. I advise that he can either phone us or check if an adverse event has been submitted, or simply submit the form knowing that it may be a duplicate. I advise that it is better to receive the same information twice than not at all. Dr. Bebbington was also not aware that public health is responsible for providing guidance regarding future immunizations, and until our discussion was under the impression that he was responsible for the same. Perhaps there's an opportunity for some education regarding adverse events reporting for family providers and for emergency rooms. This is in January of 2023, 2 years after this shit has been pumped into everyone. Where the doc is coming forward saying, I'm seeing myocarditis and pericarditis patients often, and I don't know what the procedure is here. So that right there is evidence of them being underreporting because nobody knows to do it.
You mean nobody knows to report it, or nobody knows what to do once it's reported?
Yeah, a little bit of column A, column B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's insane. I mean, first of all, as you point out, and we point out again in the show for those of you just joining now, like myocarditis, pericarditis, such rare events. And this doctor is claiming that he's seeing many cases of this. Like, what was it, weekly, monthly?
It didn't specify in the emails.
Too many to count based upon the fact that it is such a rare occurrence. And that's the response.
No one should ever be seeing myocarditis or pericarditis often. Like that should ever. Like that was never a thing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And all of these things that we saw too, Chet, you know, going back to watching these, I'm sure you've seen the videos of these journalists, the news talking heads just passing out in the middle of a newscast, or some soccer player going down in the middle of a game in front of thousands of people, or a football player, 22 years old, getting diagnosed with pericarditis or myocarditis and never being able to play again. And the media, the way they handle it is absolutely criminal as far as I'm concerned. It's preposterous that they never ask these questions. Wait a minute. Do you have a history of heart disease? You see, that's where I come from. That's my background. And I do have a natural proclivity for wanting to know why. Why would that be? It's such a tremendously strange thing. Are there any answers for this? But none of these journalists, except for maybe this dude here that we talked about earlier, Andrew Rankin, would ever ask any of these questions. None of the national reporters had ever touched that stuff. And how many, press conferences these provincial chief medical officers had where you would listen to the media questions, and of course they had to ask over Zoom or telephone or whatever because there was no in-person press conferences. How many times did you go, you're not asking the question?
Yep.
It was daily for me. Wow.
It was just before the NCI. There was like members of Nova Scotia Health. So Michelle Thompson, who is our MLA, our health minister MLA. What the hell's her name? Karen Oldfield, who's the president of Nova Scotia Health, and some of like the top docs and stuff were going around Nova Scotia doing like a public Q&A with regards to issues that have come up with healthcare in Nova Scotia. And occasionally someone would ask something about like the COVID vaccine mandates, because they were only dropped maybe about 4 to 6 months ago here in Nova Scotia. We were the second last to drop it, BC being the last. And when I went there, I sat down. This was in Westville in Pictou County. I went and I submitted my question online because I was going to ask, since like I stated that I'm a paramedic for so-and-so, such and such amount of time. I got pericarditis from the vaccine. I've been terminated from my employment. And I'm still not allowed to return to work. When is this going to change? And I got like a BS answer. And so they wouldn't take my question during the thing, but I cornered them afterwards. And when I went right up to Michelle Thompson, health minister, and I explained it, and she knows who I am because she's an RN in my hometown. And oh, one second, I gotta plug my headphones in for the day. And she knows my father because she worked with my dad at one point. So she knows me, she knows my family, she knows I'm a paramedic because she's an RN here. And the response she gave me was she went from, oh, hi, Chet, to like, robot. That's the policy. We're sticking with the policy. And then walked away from me. And then I pinned down Karen Oldfield and the doctors, and I did the same thing. And they said the same thing. It's like, that's an issue to take up with your employer. And one of the doctors, and I think it's the one that I have a video of here, I'll show you in a minute, said, we are aware that the vaccine is causing myocarditis and pericarditis at a rate of 1 in 5,000 in young men. But this is the policy that we're going with. And it's like, say that again out loud for everyone to hear, that you know that this is causing myocarditis at a rate of 1 in 5,000. It's higher than that, I believe, but they publicly stated that to me and told me, too bad.
You got video of that?
No, I don't. I should have recorded it. There's a video of Morgan Guptill giving them the business, though, and saying these basically laid out all the legal stuff and said, this is illegal, what you're doing.
Hey, look at this. Christina wants to know what she missed. She's tuning in late tonight.
It's a dystopian nightmare, and they're all a bunch of lying crooks.
Sad SOBs. Christina, I wish we could capsulize what we've been through tonight in the last 90 minutes. We can't. You're just going to have to go back and watch from the beginning, I'm sorry to say. But I'm glad you're here tuning in, because we don't usually go this late on social media. But we're doing an exception tonight with Chet Chisholm. He is a paramedic from Nova Scotia who's been trying to get the word out about the corruption in the medical system in that province and how they've been lying to people.
If they did it here, they did it everywhere. That's
everywhere.
The thing. That's the thing I want to stress, is that, like, and again, thanks Shelly. Don't thank me. I'm just the messenger. She's the one who went and got it all. But like, if they did it here, they did it everywhere, right? Because it's the same thing.
Absolutely, they did.
And so what their response to this was like, let's just put an article in Nova Scotia Doctors to that regard, where it's like, hey, the doctors don't know what to do. It's like, let's put an article. I have it. If you want to give me a second, I'll show it.
Look at this. Dr. Ryan Summers tells us that he is a he, him, his. We know who we're dealing with here. Unbelievable.
Here it is. There it is. So this is the article that they put. It's a one-page thing, and it basically says, I'll zoom in a little. Can I zoom? Do it this way. It basically says, hey, vaccines are great. They're super safe, and you need to report under the law. And this is in one random, well, not random, it's Doctors Nova Scotia's little magazine they put out, and it'd be on like a bench in a doctor's office. Like, that's all they did.
That's kind of like the newsletter that doctors share with each other. Am I right?
Yeah.
Or is that, yeah, okay.
Oh, actually, I had it in here too. Me. So this is fun. So this is on January 17th, 2023, and this is from the usual suspects. Hi, all. In response to the CDC preliminary safety signal for ischemic stroke, so that's when a blood vessel gets blocked in your head, in 65 plus with this Pfizer bivalent, I have not seen anything out of Health Canada in response, so wanted to be sure I did not miss anything. Shelley, would Health Canada typically issue a response from preliminary safety signals from the US? I recognize no other safety systems have shown the same signal, and multiple analyses have not validated the signal as well. CDC recommendation is no change to COVID-19 vaccination practice at this time. Blah, blah, blah. It's being prepared federally. It's not, they don't make any decisions provincially. It's all decided in Ottawa. And so here's the messaging that came from Health Canada on this regard. So ischemic stroke following mRNA bivalent COVID-19 vaccinations, Canada, December 1st, 2020 to January 6th, 2023. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but the important thing in it is right here. So I showed you a whole bunch of adverse events reports in Nova Scotia. And it says in total, four reports of ischemic stroke have been reported to Public Health Agency of Canada or Health Canada. I showed you more in Nova Scotia in a selection of emails.
So who's lying here? Like, is it the feds, or is it the province underreporting to the feds, or is it a little from column A, a little from column
I
B?
think it's a
Probably
little
all of
from
that,
column
right?
A, column B. Because something that Peter McCullough had stressed is when you see these adverse events reports, that means a physician felt strongly enough that what happened to the patient was in relation to them getting vaccinated. Like they said, oh, that's unusual. That may be very well be tied to the vaccine. It's not just well, whatever. It's that's reasonable that it might be. It might not be. That's possible, but I'm gonna
How much
lean towards
paperwork, Chet,
possible.
do these doctors have to go through? Because they have to file it themselves. They can't just slough it off to somebody else when they're doing one of these adverse.
I can find it for you.
Right, and some doctors may suspect something, and they don't have the moral fortitude to follow through to investigate, like your doctor, to see exactly what it is, right? And to your doctor, to me, it sounds like an ego problem.
Oh yeah, it's a big ego thing. That's not it.
Which is absolutely astounding to me that he would let somebody go undiagnosed with a serious heart condition because of his ego.
Yeah. Well, it's because he doesn't like paramedics. This is a better question for Viva's brother, Dan. Dan Freiheit. Do you know Dan? Lion Advocacy on Twitter.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. So he would know this better because he helps people with the VISP. So he would know better. I have the form somewhere saved. I just don't have it on hand. But it's like, I think it's like somewhere between like 10 or 20 pages, maybe. But
So this is for
quote me on that.
people who wanted to submit a claim for a vaccine injury to the federal government. They have to go through all of this stuff, and it's a time-consuming, painstaking process, right?
Yeah.
And
So
even then, it may not get past the doctor's approval stage.
You got to get diagnosed with something first, right?
Yeah, and some of them don't want to do it. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is funny in a not ha-ha way. So they published that little article, and the response from Shelley Deeks is, next stop, a full Nova Scotia publicly funded vaccine adverse events report. Once we are staffed up, an important milestone for surveillance and vaccine confidence. Oy, I'm not very confident.
No conscience. Either that, or they're doing what they believe to be right. Right? It's for the greater good, regardless of how many adverse events we see here. Right? That's nothing compared to how many people we're saving because we're pumping this formula into their veins. So we should be able to feel good about that. I think that's probably the only way they could look at it without actually wanting to take their own lives.
It's the sunk cost fallacy. This has to be good. Like, there's no way that like we totally, shat the bed.
See a movie called Falling Down with
Yes, I have.
Michael Douglas? Okay.
Michael Douglas, yeah.
Michael Douglas. So at the end of the movie, when who's Robert Duvall is talking to him, the cop, and is saying, I've seen guys like you all my life, and they kill their wives, they kill their kids. And then Michael Douglas looks up at him and he says, you mean I'm the bad guy? And that is the most amazing part of the movie. This guy goes through the entire 2 hours of this show, killing people, maiming them, doing like the worst possible things, but he believes he's right, actually, within his heart. And then he finds out, no, I guess that's not the case at the end. I wonder if these people that you've been highlighting tonight with all of this great information, and thank you, Chet, for this. I wonder if they'll have that moment one of these days. Yeah. If they'll wake up one day and go, you mean I'm the bad guy?
Yeah, it's like that. There's that meme. I forget what movie it's from. I think it's from a comedy. It's the two Nazis looking at each other, and it's like, are we the baddies, Hans?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you got here, man?
So this is from another one. So this is just kind of putting into perspective some numbers here. So this is from 2021, and this goes from March 1st. So this ignores everything in that first round up until October 14th. So just before that article came out. And this is a list of the adverse events. And so like listed, but this is what I want to show you. Can you see that okay?
Mhm.
I'll zoom out one click here so I can show it all. So currently, these are the numbers that are reported, and underreporting is the thing. Myocarditis and pericarditis, there's 8 who've been admitted to the ER. 34 people have been hospitalized, and less than 5 people have died. They have to, because it's less than 5, they can't tell you specifically because it's a patient confidentiality thing. Stroke, 5 ER visits, 14 hospitalized, less than 5 deaths. Pulmonary embolism, less than 5 emergency room visits, 5 hospitalizations, less than 5 deaths. Cardiac rhythm disturbances are 0. Neurological problems, there's 47 ER visits, 22 people were hospitalized with less than 5 dead. And then allergic reactions, you've got 110 ER visits, less than 5 hospitalized and less than 5 deaths. And then in that case in particular, there's also 129 who are non-ER, so probably doctors' visits. Yeah, fun stuff.
Is that provincially or federally?
That's Nova Scotia.
That's the Nova Scotia one. And that came out when? 2022?
October 2021, before they even before the deadline ran out for the vaccine mandate.
So they admitted before that
Yep.
they're underreporting just by putting this out before that. They obviously did not have all of their censorship ducks in a row, right? I mean, all of this information.
This is all. This is from none of this was public. Well, it was kind of public. It's in freedom of information requests, right? So this is stuff that was either sent to Shelley Hipson or Paul Westhaver. But you could get access to this, but you'd need to know where to look for it. I showed it to you before. It was this
Under the
website.
bed.
Nobody has any idea where this is. I didn't know this was a thing, right? So,
dude, you've got all the evidence you need to be able to sue the asses off these people for misfeasance. Intentional. Like, this is murder.
Yeah, they killed people. We'll get to that. We're not even there yet.
Okay.
I'll show you some official numbers, like recent.
Okay, now I'm going to put a time limit on you. You got 15 minutes.
Okay.
15 minutes.
Let me
We're going to give you 15 more.
Here it is. Here's the big one. So this is from December 14th, 2020 to February 8th, 2023. These are outcomes among Nova Scotians reporting serious adverse events following COVID-19 immunization for an immunization date range between December 14th and February 8th, so 2020 to 2023. Again, serious consists of seriously injured, hospitalized, disabled, or dead, right? So you have 290 people who have recovered, 348 people who have not yet recovered, 7 people who are permanently disabled, and you have 15 people who are dead. That's 660 people in a population of under just over 900,000 people.
Now imagine the underreporting.
Yeah. And I told you, and I showed you that one of the docs wrote in and said, I don't know what the chain of custody is for all of this information. What do I do here?
What do you do? Well, you just throw it out and hope nobody ever notices. I believe that's what's happened a lot. Probably in 90% of the cases where the doctor has no clue what the procedure is or doesn't want to go there, right? For whatever reason, I don't want to get involved in that stuff. And they just dismiss it out of hand and hope that that person's going to be okay. And then they move on to the next, like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, so I'll start winding it up. There's one article I want to show after this, but this is the vaccine mandate policy that came into effect for us as healthcare providers. This doesn't exist on the internet anymore because they like to delete things. You can't find this, but I have it, obviously. But it just talks about the vaccine mandatory policy. But I want to show you something. So this is for Part 3 operators, employers and operators in high-risk settings. So doctors, paramedics, nurses, teachers, etc. Anyone basically dealing with like the public or the vulnerable. And so they are. So this is 3.1.3 is the medical exemption criteria, and so I'm going to read them to you. So this is as approved by the Chief Medical Officer of Health, so Dr. Robert Strang. And here's the criteria to get a medical exemption at the time. The person cannot be vaccinated against COVID-19 based on one of the following valid medical contraindications. They have a history of severe allergic reactions, such as anaphylaxis, after previous administration of a COVID-19 vaccine using a similar platform, mRNA or viral vector, and an allergic reaction to any component of the specific COVID-19 vaccine or its container, such as polyethylene glycol. A history of major venous or arterial thrombosis or thrombocytopenia, so blood clots and low platelets.
Wait a minute, Chet, did they have any idea what was even in this formula before they published this? Like all of the ingredients of
Well, they knew
these
polyethylene
vaccines?
glycol was in it, right? But
Yeah,
they
but
probably
I
didn't
mean,
know anything else.
all of the other things. I mean, how on earth could he use that as a condition of exemption if they didn't even know what was in it?
Oh, wait till I put it into context for you, and then it gets worse.
Okay.
So a history of capillary leak syndrome, so like when your blood vessels leak fluid into your interstitial area following vaccination, a history of myocarditis and or pericarditis after the first dose of the COVID vaccine, or you experience a serious adverse event after receiving a first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Serious adverse event is defined as life-threatening, requires inpatient hospitalization, or prolongs an existing hospitalization, results in persistent or significant disability, incapacity or congenital anomaly, birth defect, and or the effective time period for the medical indication. So what do all of those things share in common? There's two things.
What you're asking me, like for
Yeah,
real?
I'll tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the first is they all require you to take it once. And the second is every single one of those is life-threatening. So you need to have a life-threatening injury, that's something that may potentially kill you, once, and then and only then may you opt out.
So it's Russian roulette.
Yeah. Point the gun at your head, pull the trigger, and if it doesn't go bang, load another bullet in and point the gun at your head again and spin. Yeah, like it's
And you only have to do it twice, man. Don't worry about it. Only twice.
twice.
Ridiculous.
Well, they were going to make us take us every 90 days at one point.
Was in the plan there in Nova Scotia, or for just for paramedics?
I think that was discussed Canada-wide. I don't remember. I remember them talking about it. I don't
recall any threat of a third one being mandatory. And I know the response from most people who were polled, they said, I don't think so. Right. And I don't know what that would have been based on. But I do know that when they were reporting the uptake of the third shot, it was significantly lower percentage than the first two, right? I mean, here in Manitoba, I think 81% of people were fully vaccinated with 2 shots. And they started reporting the uptake of the third one, and they were complaining that people weren't taking it. I think it was like 30%. So you're talking about 51% of people who refuse to take it of their own free will when they're not coerced.
Yeah, I know some of my buddies from work, like now, like they're like, absolutely not. They come anywhere near me with that shit, like we'll quit on the spot. What's interesting
though,
too
that's the thing, right? Everybody says that, and then because they haven't done it yet. Again, I mean, we're expecting that they might try and do it again, but so far we haven't seen it. Anyway,
what's interesting so I'll show you an article, and then I'll show you something you asked for before. So the current COVID-19 vaccine thing with Nova Scotia is medical contraindications. If you have a history of myocarditis, pericarditis, and are still being followed by a doctor for related heart issues, please follow up with a healthcare provider before receiving the vaccine. As a precaution, recommends people who experienced myocarditis and pericarditis after the first dose of the mRNA COVID vaccine should wait to get their next dose of mRNA vaccine until more information is available. That's their current recommendation. So it's not even an exemption anymore. It's just a recommendation that you wait.
I don't even know what to say, man. I mean, you've exposed everything that we know, but you bring in the receipts. So I'm wondering what the next step is?
Well,
Like,
to give you an
how do
idea
we-
what happens to people, so this is in my hometown. So Department of Health suing Antigonish doctor in connection with refusal of getting the COVID-19 vaccine. So one of our ER docs, Dr. Scary, Dr.
What a
Lisa
suitable
Scary.
name, right? Dr.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, she was awesome. So the
Spelled
Attorney
wrong.
General on behalf of the department filed a notice of action in the Halifax court on November 2nd against Dr. Lisa Scary, alleging breach of contract. Scary was suspended from practicing as a general internist after she refused to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And so if you read into this article, it's because she saw people with adverse events, in particular menstrual issues. And so she said, I'm not taking that stuff. No thanks. And so not only did they fire her, but now they are suing her for $324,000.
For what?
Breach of contract because she's not at work.
That's insane. I'd like to get her on the show too.
I know Paul Westhaver knows her and has her contact info, but I know she's pulled her license and stuff. So I don't have any direct contact with her.
If they've pulled her license, then she has no reason to not talk.
She pulled it, I think, on her own. But you had asked her.
I hate to say this, man, but we're going to need a big finish. We got 4 minutes left.
Go.
And the only reason is because I'm running out of bandwidth. I'm not going to have a lot of space left, and I still have to do some other things here. But definitely, you guys, a lot of people in comments are asking for Chet to come back. So absolutely, we'll bring Chet back when he's able to come back on for sure.
You want to see what I did at work?
What's this?
You can pull it up. This is an old Facebook post. So I just blocked out the name that posted it. Just like scroll down. But this is that's my left hand treating a kid with croup, and I can share this because she shared it on Facebook. It was the worst snowstorm I've ever seen in my life. We got about 3 or 4 feet of snow in the span of maybe about 2 hours, and they were trying to get to the hospital and got stranded. And so we went and got them, and also got stranded on the Trans-Canada. Believe it or not, there's that much snow. So I find it weird reading it aloud aloud, but if you want to, I am who I say I am. That is.
Yeah, man, you never had to prove that. I bought it just in the way you talk.
That's why we do what we do.
You are, well, unfortunately, with the drifts being so high, the ambulance got stuck to half an hour on the highway. I was terrified. The paramedics were amazing. They did everything they could to make sure Riley was comfortable and that we were safe. A kind man offered to take us to the hospital in his truck, but we were told the plow was on its way. The plow cleared a path for us to the hospital, and after our driver fought with the ambulance to get out of the drift, we were on our way. Once we got to the hospital, they got Riley in and looked after, and we ended up spending the night at the hospital because the roads were so bad. I wanted to thank our paramedics, Chet and Paul, for being so fantastic. They kept me calm while I was panicked, and they took such great care of Riley, and despite the roads being treacherous, made sure we arrived safely. I do hope that in the future, EHS will consider having the trucks 4x4 in case of this type of thing. Thankfully, Riley is great now, back to his old self. The picture was taken while we were waiting to be plowed out. He didn't make a peep the whole time, so thank you, EHS, and your wonderful staff. Well, man, that's just a great testament.
You want to see what the roads look like, and then we'll finish on that?
Sure. None of us in Canada have ever seen roads like that before. Just want you to know.
Oh,
we have in Nova Scotia.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy here, man. We're in a snow belt because, so this is when it first started snowing. And this is the Trans-Canada Highway, so that's how deep the snow was. Like it was so bad you couldn't see. I had to roll the window down, sit in the window, hold on to the side mirror, and lean out the window because you couldn't see out the window, and steer like this crazy while sitting up the thing driving through town.
How bad does the snow get out there? Because I've never been to Nova Scotia before, and I've heard stories about how
it's crazy,
brutal.
Yeah. It's brutal. Like we get it's nothing to get like 3 or 4 feet of snow in an evening. It's just because we're on the ocean, and so like you get the the cold air comes off like Quebec and New Brunswick, goes over the ocean, warms up, and then you get the cold air, brief cold air over PEI, and then it goes over the ocean again, and then it dumps on my part of the province and like Cape Breton.
Wow.
And so it's just like if they get like this much snow, like in like say like Halifax, we get like 4 feet.
How far from Halifax are you?
About 2 hours.
Yeah,
2 hours north.
in Manitoba here, we get snow, and once we get it, it stays, right? So if it starts in middle of November or the end of November, it's not gone until middle of April. And it can get to be a lot, but not compared to you guys. Here, it's more the cold.
Yeah,
and
it
the
doesn't
wind
get
chill.
really cold here, and that's why we get so much snow. Like I've been to Winnipeg before. My sister used to live out there, and I remember when we were there over Christmas, it was warmer on Mars than it was in Winnipeg.
Yeah. Don't come here in December or January. That's not when you come. You come in June, July, or August, because that's when we're, able to treat people like human beings.
Yeah.
Chet, you are a great guy, man. Thank you for coming on and sharing all
You're
this
quite
with us
welcome.
tonight. And people are asking for you to come back, so
Yeah.
we'll have to make a plan on you coming
I
back at some
will.
point.
I will dig some more, and I'll give Shelley Hipson a nudge because she can talk about everything that's in these things and how
We'll
she
get both
did
of you
it.
guys to come on. I'd love to hear just a conversation between the two of you. I'll just sit here and listen like
Absolutely.
everybody else. Cool, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're
We'll
welcome.
talk again soon.
Amen.
Chet.
Peace.
Night. Take it easy. Chet Chisholm, you guys. That is, wow. What a great presentation that he put together tonight. And here's the thing. I didn't realize that he was going to be doing a presentation like that and that extensive. So I got to thank him again for doing that. Tomorrow night on the show, we've got Greg Wycliffe. Now, Greg, comedian, he's got his own social media presence. He's a big influencer on YouTube and Facebook and X. Greg says that he's got some information to share in regards to exposing the left-wing corporate media, which excites me. So hopefully you feel that same way. And we'll have a good time with Greg Wycliffe tomorrow night on the show. And then Maggie Hope Braun with great news of a big win coming up on Thursday night. Don't forget, if you're in Manitoba, we'll see you at the Stonewall Legion between 2 and 4:30 on Saturday afternoon to talk more in detail about the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Plan 2050 and how it may affect you if you live in the city of Winnipeg or any of the other 17 rural municipalities surrounding the city. You guys are all in that plan, and you want to know what the heck is going on with that plan. Ken Drysdale and I will be at the Stonewall Legion on Saturday afternoon between 2 and 4:30. And if you want to know more about it, just join us there. And there's more information on my Facebook page, obviously, and on ManitobaStrongerTogether.ca. Okay, we're going to move to the extension on shadowdavis.com in just a couple of minutes. We still have more stuff for you guys tonight. As a matter of fact, there's an MLA in Alberta who was kicked out of the UCP caucus because she said something transphobic. And of course, all of the left-wing corporate media jumped on that. Well, now Danielle Smith and this MLA, her name is Jennifer Johnston, are talking about her returning to caucus, but she's got to go through this sensitivity training. And she has to learn how to be more, I'm just going to go ahead and say woke on social media. And we've got video of an interaction between her and one of the people who will approve her reinstatement into the United Conservative Party of Alberta coming up in the extension. You're not even going to believe the dehumanizing and degrading way this drag queen, who also happens to be a PhD somehow, spoke to her. We're going to play that video for you in the extension for the All Access members at shadowdavis.com in just a second. And also, Jagmeet Singh almost got himself into a fight today in Ottawa, in the street. And there's video. We're going to play that for you, too. If you're not joining us in the extension, we'll catch you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central, for another Shadow at Night live stream brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com. Love you all. Appreciate you all. See you soon. And I'll be back for the extension on shadowdavis.com in 2 minutes.